Is this just Supercross 6 with a new coat of mud, or is there more beneath the surface? Well, I've been scrubbing, whipping and trying not to get punted off the track, and I've got a full breakdown of Monster Energy Supercross 25. From new physics tweaks to career mode changes, let's find out if this one is podium worthy or stuck in the mud. But first, a quick thank you to PLAION, Milestone and Premier Comms for the review copy. From the surface, Supercross 25 looks stunning. The bikes, the lighting and the mud textures all pop, especially under the stadium floodlights. The HDR implementation adds depth to the visuals, which really brings the dirt to life. I played this on an OLED ultrawide 3440x1440p with HDR enabled on an RTX 5070 Ti. At maximum settings it held steady between 80 to 90 FPS with no noticeable drops, but the option to play around with some settings to find a balance of more frames and quality is recommended. But a strong positive for the ultrawide user is Supercross 25 now supports 21:9 aspect ratio within the game. HUD elements are now correctly displayed, giving you much more screen space. However, as usual, menus and replays are still poorly implemented, meaning only the racing is supported by 21:9. Anywhere else that isn't the race, you're going to see black borders. Now the menus are slicker than the previous games, though still familiar, so if you've played a Milestone game recently, you'll know how it feels. Animations are clean, rider model looks solid, and the presentation overall has that polished official AMA Monster Energy Supercross broadcast feel.
Endings are nearly set, but there still could be some last-minute surprises, Ricky.
Absolutely. This incredible sport is full of surprises.
Even if it still borrows a lot from its predecessors, similar lines of commentary, introductions are pretty much exactly the same as well, and the stadium announcer still repeats the same lines as frequent as the previous installment. So now let's get to the burning question. Is there track deformation? And yes there is. The most requested feature forever has been mud that actually deforms over time, and for the very first time in this series, it's here. And it sounds great to finally say that. The tracks look more alive as the laps go on, which definitely boost immersion. That said, is it everything we hoped for? Well, I'm a little bit mixed. Although advertised as dynamic, I don't feel that's entirely accurate. The ruts seem to follow a similar pattern each race, so it doesn't always feel like the surface is evolving in real time. But nonetheless, it's still a big step forward, and I do think it adds something fresh to the experience. I just hope Milestone continues to build on this foundation. But now on to the bikes. How do they ride? On paper, this year's handling is more refined, especially with the introduction of counter steering. It's a clever addition that adds depth to cornering, and when it works, it's brilliant. That feeling of pushing the bike in the opposite direction and carving a corner with real intent. Extremely satisfying. That said, there's a bit of disconnect when airborne or collisions are made. The controls flip, so when you're pushing right to go left while counter steering, when you're up in the air you have to go left, and then when you get bumped you might be mid counter steer, which then changes your controls again. A little bit more irritating than I expected, and it did cause quite a few frustrating moments. However, I love the idea, feels good when it works, but it just needs refining. Or at least give us an option to toggle it off for in air or when collisions happen. Outside of that, the bikes feel weighty, heavy and planted. It takes effort to control them. But that makes pulling off a clean rhythm section or landing a perfect triple feel all the more rewarding. Whips and scrubs can be a little bit slow to respond and look a little bit ugly sometimes, but when you nail one mid-race, it's again extremely satisfying. You'll grin when it happens. Now for the AI, it's a bit of a mixed bag. Aggressive? Definitely. And it can lead to some intense moments. I had some proper elbow-out battles whilst recording this review, but it doesn't always feel fair. Sometimes the AI is a little bit overly aggressive and overly strong on the harder difficulties, and then some in the middle difficulties, they're too weak. Still, when it works, it creates tense racing moments that make you lean forward and try that little bit harder. Anyway, the core modes are back in Supercross 25. Your career mode, time attack, multiplayer, track editor, and now even the options to create your suit, helmet and rider sticker, all from scratch. Awesome. Plenty to do. However, please note that Supercross 25 no longer features an open world playground or compound. Instead of that dedicated area, there's now a bunch of Milestone created MX tracks to race and time trial on. I'll let you decide whether that was a good replacement or not, but I will say the MX style tracks are awesome and really fun to ride on. The locations are unique and huge, and the option to race with them online against the AI by time trials is really fun, but I can't help to feel that the compound is slightly missed. Career mode once again has that nice familiar structure, and honestly I enjoyed getting stuck into it. The social media interactions are still a fun way to shape your story, and starting a rivalry with Felipe Mercy early on was a real highlight. It gave the races an extra bit of edge, and I found myself really pushing to make sure I beat my virtual foe. The only shame is that the rivalries don't last particularly long. Once that futures part of your career mode ended, old enemies like Felipe just vanish into the background. And it's a bit of a missed opportunity because even short-lived, the system still adds a welcome bit of personality, but it'd be great if you could travel and continue your career against these people who you're creating rivalries with. It would be an extra addition that would make it that little bit more interesting. Now for career mode, it is all the usual stuff like upgrading your bike, getting reputation to move to teams, pretty much the basic thing that you've seen before, nothing too refined, nothing too much. A good experience which I'm keen to really sink my teeth into. Now multiplayer is available for Supercross 25 and full crossplay will be supported. Players from PC and both consoles can all play together now with the use of an Epic's Game account. Due to the early access, and understandably so, I couldn't test this. However, those couch co-op gamers, you're in luck, as split screen is present in Supercross 25. Now I'm not fully up to date with the world of AMA Monster Energy Supercross, but my understanding is the licensing is solid. You've got the full roster of real riders, although no Eli Tomac at the moment, teams and stadiums, making that official feel go a long way when you're deep into a career mode season. Now audio is a very subjective thing, but for me the bike sounds solid this time around. Testing different bikes and hearing different grunts was a very fun experience. Granted, this is something that will still get repeated over a full race, but the echo and reverb in the stadiums added atmosphere. Crowd noise ramps up nicely when you land a big jump or take the lead or even crash, just like it was in its predecessors. And speaking of its predecessors, those previous installments always had cracking music to play with in the menus and everywhere else, and I can safely say Supercross 25 is exactly the same. Great soundtrack, great music that pumps you up for the action. Now in my 8 hours of testing I didn't run into any major bugs. Just a few milestone quirks like hands disappearing in helmet cam, which is actually a complaint I've had since Supercross 5. But nothing game breaking. Menus are quick to navigate and they don't waste your time, which is always a plus. So then, should you pick this one up? If you're a Supercross fan who skipped the last game, then this is a solid upgrade. The riding feels more dialed in, the presentation is sharper, and there's enough meat on the bone to keep you entertained for quite a good while. I've had lots of fun with it, from carving through a soaked track under the lights to launching massive jumps on the custom MX courses. Feels like a proper racing game. But if you did play Supercross 6, this isn't a massive leap forward. More like a careful step. The new features are welcome, the physics are improved, but it's not revolutionary. It's still got some of those classic milestone quirks that we all recognise by now. Still, for me, the fun outweighs the flaws, the racing feels alive, there's more depth under the hood, and even when the game annoys you, you still want to jump in again for another session. For newcomers and diehards, it's a muddy, chaotic good time with enough polish to earn its spot on the gate. But for everyone else, maybe keep an eye on it and see how it develops post-launch. But that is it from me. I hope you enjoyed the review. If you did, let me know in the comments section down below, and I'll be sure to see you again in another video. Thanks for watching, like and subscribe. Ciao for now.